Bonginkosi Mabaso is the Chief Commercial Officer at Transnet Freight Rail. Bonginkosi, good evening to you and thank you for your time. Workers in coal mines in South Africa are worried. They say that they may lose their jobs because of the problems that you as Transnet have. We all know the problems that you've had. Are they right to be worried?
Good evening, Stephen, and thank you for having me. I don't want to enter into the conversation around whether or not they are to be worried insofar as what you've raised is concerned. But what I can safely say to you, Stephen, is number one, the issue that the gentleman that spoke just now raises around price is absolutely a critical one. Coal prices have moved down from last year on year, $346 to currently $99.80. That's a 71% drop in coal price. So the issues that are being presented are not primarily focused Transnet. I know that we do have our challenges. And Stephen, we've been very open and transparent insofar as what challenges we face as an organization. And there are three critical areas that are impacting our ability to move volumes. The first one is the issue of locomotives, which we've spoken about quite widely, the fact that without the support of the OEMs insofar as delivering spares and the required maintenance, we cannot move any volumes beyond what we can with the limited resources. Just to demonstrate that, Stephen, in 2018-19, when we had 2,200 locomotives, we were able to deliver some 220 million tons of volumes. This year, the last financial year rather, we had only 1,500 locomotives available. Not because we've not invested in a fleet of locomotives, we have, but unfortunately, given the impasse with particularly the biggest OEM being CRRC, we do not have access to parts and the maintenance that we require to get the locomotives productive. Until that issue is resolved, and we really have been making a lot of noise around that and the support that we require to get it resolved. That's the first one. The second one is the issue of table theft and vandalism. Again, just to demonstrate this using stats, the previous year we lost about 1,600 kilometers of rail overhead traction equipment due to theft and vandalism. We are fighting on our end, and we are not sitting on our laurels and watching this unfold to a point where we've reduced it to 1,100 kilometers in the last financial year, which is a 33% reduction. But it still remains a critical issue because without that, of course, we remain unable to move trains. And of course, the last one then being the systemic underinvestment in rail infrastructure, which is something that sort of dates as far back as a good couple of years. But that said, as I've indicated, with all these issues, we are not just sitting and saying we are watching the economy collapse. We are doing quite a bit in terms of the locomotives. Whilst the issue of the impasse is center stage, we've gone out and engaged other OEMs to come to the party to bring back as many locomotives as we possibly can, other than CRRC. To that point, we are already seeing locomotives coming back into production. We have a schedule of locos that will be brought back for the duration of the year. Having started in April, every month we see quite a number of locomotives being brought back. And of course, as I've indicated, security, we've gone out to the open market and we've appointed a service provider that will assist us insofar as an outcomes-based version of contracting in terms of security.
So, Bonginkosi, with the CRRC, that's a Chinese state-owned entity, and to oversimplify this story and to dramatically oversimplify it, this is the company that built the locomotives. It's the OEM, the original equipment manufacturer. There's then a dispute with SARS and, I think, the Reserve Bank. Either way, SARS wants quite a lot of money from them. They said no and went back to China, and now they won't give you the spare parts that you need. Pravin Gordhan, your minister, he's the Minister of Public Enterprises, so he oversees you. He went on a trip to China to try and resolve this, to try and invite them back and to deal with SARS. I don't know how he was going to do that. Has there been any progress from that visit?
Stephen, I'll allow the DPE to maybe engage a bit more around that because, of course, Minister, having visited China, they are best positioned to sort of respond on the developments around that. But on our end, what we are doing is, whilst those developments unfold, as I've indicated, we are not sitting waiting for an outcome out of that. We are doing best as we can with the resources that we have. Of course, taking into account that without the necessary tools of trade, the volumes will not mirror what we did in 2018-19.
There are going to be some calls for radical action, and I realize, Bonginkosi, and I accept that a lot of this is beyond your control. There was, if I remember correctly, a tender to allow the private sector to run the line from Durban to Johannesburg. Has there been much interest in that?
There has been interest, and maybe just let me qualify that as well, Stephen. The open market process that we've undertaken insofar as that's concerned is for a lease, for a third party that will lease the corridor rather than take it over outright. And the purpose of that is, of course, to enable investment in the maintenance and the infrastructure upgrades that are required to make that line productive. You need to note that that line, that corridor alone, is the backbone of the manufacturing sector in the economy, and therefore, without the necessary investment, that line will not support the economy as much as it can. So it is a leasing process that we've undertaken with the third parties that are interested, and there has been quite significant interest in that regard.
Bonginkosi Mabaso, thank you, Chief Commercial Officer for Transnet Freight Rail. Do appreciate the time on the pulse.